we are not live on the right show stream. So let me go figure out where we went. But it is live before lock, NFL style. We're getting one more in here. We're talking Pro Bowl. So bonus show here for everybody, and bonus show for Yahoo because they're running Pro Bowl to Super Bowl contests, and it looks like there may be some overlay. So interesting strategy on that. We'll talk about a little bit. We'll talk about coin flips because that's pretty much what the Pro Bowl really is these days. All right, we're live on Twitch. Always a bonus. But let me see if I can find our stream here on the old Osmo YouTube channel. But Nolan, how have you been? I begrudgingly said, yeah, let's do a Pro Bowl show. It sounded fun until we started looking at it. And you're like, oh, where's the strategy? But there is strategy here that we'll talk about.
I'm just trying to figure out why we aren't going on YouTube here.
Oh, here we go. I found us. It's
got it. I'm just trying to figure out why we aren't going on YouTube here.
Oh, here we go. Share this.
Got it. I'm just trying to figure out why we aren't.
Got feedback. All right, there we go. Let's pick this off here and go to the other show. All right, there we are. We're good. In any event, yeah, this is what happens. This is about as dedicated as the players are going to be today. It's about our effectiveness. So Pro Bowl rather interesting because
this is my favorite slate of the year, man. This is my favorite. Like I think this competition is softer than any other contest all year in DFS. So although like it's really tough for us to analyze it because you don't know where the ball is going or how much playing time there's going to be. There's a long track record of what happens in this game. And I don't think maybe this is the year we'll finally see people catch up and DFSers kind of adjust their lineups. But as of yet, I have not seen anyone play these contests the way they should be played. So we will dive into it, I'm sure.
Yeah, and last year was kind of one of the first slates where they broke out the second half contests and fourth quarter contests. I think that was it was DraftKings, or was it FanDuel that made their first foray into this. So yes, I'm well aware that this says NBA. Sorry, this is just where we popped up. YouTube froze on me, and this is where we are. But we're gonna do a little NFL because it says NFL, in the show, the header above us. That's a clue. But it's live before lock. So so DraftKings, FanDuel are doing the slates. We talked about Yahoo. They're doing the combo Pro Bowl, Super Bowl. So we'll hit on that a little bit. But key things we want to know, there's different rules here, Nolan. So some of the highlights are the defense can't blitz. The defense, it's basically glorified touch football. Nobody really wants to get hurt. Running backs, incredibly marginalized. I think over the last 3 games, the most carries any running back has gotten was 6. Last year, it was somebody, I think Sherman was their name. It was either the special teams player or a fullback. I forget what he was, but he ended up...
Yeah, Sherman was fullback, yeah.
Yeah, 3 catches for like 90 yards, and then I think he scored a rushing touchdown as well. He basically broke the slate.
Well, he broke the slate, but also the AFC defense broke the slate, right? So 7 sacks, 3 interceptions, 7 points allowed. If you went AFC defense and fullback in your lineup, you won all the money last year. So that's one of the things, and one of my biggest takeaways just from looking at the last 3 years and possibly the last 4. That didn't go that far back, but there's an article on Osmo.com that you can look at where I've got some trends that have been going for a few years now, and one of them is that in the top 6 scorers, defense has been prevalent each of the last 3 seasons. It's been in the top 4, one defense. So you probably want to get a defense in there. And I think people think of all-star games as just like these crazy offensive blowouts. And, maybe people are aware of this fact yet this year, but certainly hasn't been so far. And like people are hesitant to play them because you want to get all these stars in. I think one of the reasons why is because you tend to see a lot of sacks. And I think part of that is because that, if you get within like 3 feet of a quarterback, they're just going to blow the whistle. And then the second thing is, a lot of these quarterbacks and wide receivers aren't on the same page, so these defenses can just kind of play a little soft coverage and sort of wait for the wide receiver to run the wrong route, and all of a sudden you've got to pick the other way, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Did you actually watch the game at all last year?
I believe I did. Yeah, I don't remember. Like, nothing stands out. So I didn't have any Sherman or defense, I don't think, or I didn't have enough of them anyways to have a sweat. So um, it's unfortunately, like, I feel like that's where the entertainment value is, right?
It is. It is. So that's kind of some of the rules. And the defense has to stay kind of in a base defense. Um, Tight ends. There are 4 tight ends, 2 on each team. A tight end has to be on the field for every play. That
Yes.
is important. You are going to, if you're doing a, you can make so let's talk about Fantasy Cruncher or other optimizers.
Sure.
I would create a group of the 4 tight ends, and I would say minimum play 2 of them. The other thing,
So I think I agree with you. Like, and that's what I did. I changed it to a minimum one rule, because if you do look at the last, like, so we had 2018, we had Delaney Walker and Kyle Rudolph. 2017, we had Kelsey and Delaney Walker, and then last year we had Kittle and Hooper tie for 7th top scorer, and that was it for tight end. So I think, like, I agree. You're probably right. Play a minimum of 2, but also you could also get by with playing just 1. But you should definitely have at least 1 tight end. And then the other thing, throwing a wrench in that, I think this year, is that we have 3 tight ends on the NFC team. Usually we only have 2 per team.
Ertz is out.
Is he out for sure?
Yep, he withdrew.
Okay, I didn't see that. I was looking for something this morning and didn't see. So okay, so that means, like, Austin Hooper.
And so Jared Cook is in as his replacement.
Okay, that's why I just saw the questionable tag here and I wasn't sure. So there you go. So your point stands. I think 2 is probably a pretty good option for sure, and it's a safe play, right? Because you're on the field all the time, as opposed to like these wide receivers and going in and on and off the field. So I think it's a safe play, and I'm all about that, setting that rule in Fantasy Cruncher too.
Yeah, I just want to try to see. I don't. Someone told me this last night in our Slack, but I'm just I'm looking here. Yeah, nothing.
What you looking for?
I'm just trying to see if Zach Ertz is out. A bunch of people. I don't know why people are.
I think. Are people saying he's not out?
No, I just want to. I hate to not have seen it with my own eyes and say that, but I'm almost positive. I would. Let's put it this way: I'm not playing Zach Ertz. The game starts at 3 or 3:30, so we have plenty of time to figure that out. But I believe that's why Jared Cook became in here. Let's see. Hey, if you guys refresh the feed, it'll now say NFL Pro Bowl. I changed that. So for those of you letting me know, thank you. But yeah, we had a little glitch there for YouTube. In any event, so what is another way you can use your optimizer? I set everybody. I just did fantasy points, so everybody came in equal. So I did that by putting in their salary and dividing that by, or giving them enough fantasy points that everybody comes in equal. Because I don't want people. I want to create the rules or influence it myself, as opposed to just letting what's going to happen here for the what the optimizers are going to do. The reason I wanted it to be equal is we don't know who's really going to play. So the starting quarterbacks generally play through the first quarter, and that's about it. Then the second guy comes in, and a lot of times whoever gets into the second half gets most of the second half. Now that doesn't always happen, but you want to, usually the guy who goes first doesn't get as many plays. The quarterbacks very, 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 very rarely will they come back in once they've come out. They're still eligible to, and all of that, but generally once they're done for the day. So you want to be careful on that.
And like looking at, and I think your points is a good one there. Looking at some of the starters, whether that's Drew Brees 2 years ago, I believe it was Russell Wilson last year that
Yep.
started, yeah, it was like Russell Wilson. So the starters do get a little bit less run, and then the second and third stringers sometimes, like I'm not seeing a lot of discrepancy in terms of pass attempts between the second and third guy
Yeah.
over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. So basically, I think you're better off from quarterbacks. Here are my takeaways from studying the last three. One is that you're better off probably starting the second and third stringers, like you said. Two, it's that they don't get enough playing time to factor into the captain spot selection. I think that if you look back, you'll rarely see someone's pass for more than 2 touchdowns and 150 yards. So you're probably looking at about 1 touchdown, 150 yards for the best quarterback on the slate, which of course makes them viable in your non-captain selections. But you just have to be careful by not taking too many quarterbacks, because I think that their upside is limited just by the lack of playing time, which obviously makes a lot of sense. And then the third thing that you need to factor in is that quarterbacks just don't rush in these games. I think, we might, if there's anyone that was going to do it, it's going to be Lamar Jackson today. And I'm definitely worried about fading him. But at the same time, like they're just probably told not to take any unnecessary risks. And I think quarterbacks have combined for a total of 3 rush yards over the past 3 Pro Bowls. So you might see Lamar Jackson take off, and maybe he could break the slate. But the more likely scenario is that he's not going to be rushing the ball, though. It scares me to death fading him.
All right, so I'm looking at. I wrote up an article last year that broke down a bunch of these rules and stuff. So the kicking game. So there are no kickoffs. So teams start on their own 25-yard line after the scores,
Yeah.
and then the winner or loser of the coin toss does the same thing to start each half.
Yeah,
So
so like I think you probably that as a result, you probably want to eliminate your Andre Roberts, your Matthew Slaters, and your Cordarrelle Pattersons from your player pool. I will have 0 of them today. I don't think they see the, like they might get a gadgety play, like kind of like rewarding that special teamer with a fullback with a few added opportunities because the coaches feel that they deserve it. But at the same time, that probably their play and upside is very limited.
all right, so I'm gonna put the show here. Um, punts. Let me go back to my page here. I should have updated this. So in there were 9 punts in 2014, 5 in 15, 3 in 16, 8 in 17, 1 in 18. I don't know how many there were last year, but it averages out to 5 punt attempts per game, 3.8 returns, and 1.4 fair catches. So there's really not much in the kicking game either.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But
but
like I think kickers are viable from a DFS perspective. If you want to, like, I'm setting a limited rule of I'm probably going to max exposure to about 20 to 30%, and then limit one per team, because we have seen kickers appear in the winning lineups.
let me
And
see.
also, they do actually have like kind of a safe floor. So there have been kickers gotten anywhere between 8 and 11 points over the past few years. Graham Gano was in the winning lineup 2 years ago with 3 for 3 field goals, 2 extra points, and 11 total points. So there is definitely a scenario where the kickers are in play here for sure.
And it's so funny because the lack of information on this game is wild. So like I'm calling up different articles to see the different rules that they've tried. Last year there were even conflicting rules, articles where it was either a 35 or a 38-second play clock instead of the 45-second play clock. They're trying to speed things up, etc. They really want the clock moving. If the players had their way, they uh, wouldn't even be doing this. See what Wikipedia says. Sometimes they have a see here. With regards to the kickers, though, what if there hasn't been more than like there's averages like 3 field goal attempts combined
Hmm.
each game.
Yeah.
So there's not very much there. Sometimes we'll see the teams go for 2, uh, because they're just screwing around at this
Hmm.
point. Let's see. Just
Yeah, and the other thing, so and you touched on the other rules that we're going to see this year. The other one is the take it or make it rule that the Pro Bowl is implementing. So if you score a touchdown, then you have the option. I think it applies to field goals too, but I'm not fairly sure. You have the option to take a 4th and 15 on your own 25-yard line, and if you make that 4th and 15, the drive continues on as scheduled, and if not, it's a turnover on downs to the other team. So it's going to be interesting to see if we have any coaches make that decision today, because that could greatly affect both the kicking games and the defenses here, right? If every single time a team scores, they opt for that 4th and 15, then we're going to see a shootout here, and it's probably going to be that the defenses aren't in play. We could also see the kickers more in play because they're, there's a greater chance of more field goals at the 25-yard line. So I think like my guess is, just with the conservative nature of NFL coaches, they're not going to use it all the time and they're just going to play a regular game. And then like when one team goes down, they will start. So we could see a scenario where a team is down and then a blowout plays out because they're opting for the take it, make it. And the other team is just getting the ball at the 25-yard line for the entire second half or something like that. So a lot of things to factor in, and they're really hard to quantify. And without projections, it's kind of difficult, but you can just sort of hand build your lineups or create some rules, like we said in Fantasy Cruncher, that will allow you to take advantage of some of these various game scripts that might play out today.
all right. What other fun do we have? Well, you know who's the coaches, Pete Carroll and John Harbaugh, who had two of the four most ground oriented games
Yeah, so
this
like, do you
season.
think that John Harbaugh is going to give Lamar Jackson the green light here,
I'd let him
or
have one snap and get him off the field.
right?
That's
Like,
it.
what's the incentive? Like, sure, it's fun, but man, like, I do not want I'm not taking my Ferrari out in the snow. It's not happening. So that's kind of why I'm worried about it. But at the same time, like, man, he just like it might just be that he drops back to pass and a hole opens up and he's Lamar Jackson and he's just going to take it, right? So
So let's see. The Ravens do have 13 players. Um, so that is helpful because that is well, that's their coach. That's also ties the most for any game. Oh, Mark Ingram. He was hurt down the stretch with a calf injury. It would not
mhm.
surprise me if he does not play today. He
So
has been practicing, they've said, but what are they really doing for practice? This
well,
is 7-on-7 touch
I
football.
would take him completely out of your player pool, and I've actually just taken running backs completely out of my player pool entirely.
Okay.
I don't have a single running back in my 100 lineups today. If you look back at the past 4 years, the most rushing yards, or sorry, since 2017, the most rushing yards any running back has had is 33 from Ezekiel Elliott, and the most carries anyone has had, I think, is 7. I can't remember who that was. If you go back to 2016, Latavius Murray had a 9-carry, 42-yard performance. That's the most carries we've seen in the last 5 years. And of course, these running backs aren't really used all that much in the passing game either. Alvin Kamara had a game where he caught 4 balls for 36 yards 2 years ago, and that's pretty much it. So one of the great efficiencies on this slate as well, and why I like this slate so much, is because people still play running backs. And though these trends might change at any time, if we're going to base our lineups off the last 3 to 4 years, we should not be playing any running backs. There simply isn't enough ball to go around. These teams simply don't run the ball, and running backs just aren't really big factors in this game. So, and there's also a lot of mouth to feed, right? You have 5 running backs and usually 1 to 2 on the field at any given time. So, these touches, no running back's going to get any more than like 7 to 8 touches, and that's probably a max. Now, you might have a scenario where there's an outlier performance here, but I think if you're going by the trends and you're building lineups, the best way to approach it is just to take the risk and not roster running backs today.
All right. So here's the fun on Yahoo. So they have so they are doing a 2-game slate. Everybody is in the All-Star game or in the Pro Bowl is priced the same price essentially. They're all between 15 and 20. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to play one from there. I would recommend playing one of the defenses or one of the tight ends. And then I would take everybody else from the Super Bowl because they're likely to get a lot more opportunity and production.
Yeah, that's true, right? And like this Super Bowl game is probably going to be a bit of a shootout. I think you can definitely pepper in some Pro Bowl players, right? Like it's likely that I'd say 2 to 3 Pro Bowlers are going to end up on a winning roster if you're playing that full slate. If we go back and look at some of the better performances over the last few years, Delaney Walker had a 2 touchdown game. We had Keenan Allen with a 495 line, and you said Sherman last year with a 392 line. And then going back 1 year further, I believe we had another. We didn't have a 2 touchdown game, but we had like Doug Baldwin had 367 and one. So you're not looking at like huge outlier performances from this Pro Bowl, but you are going to see 1 or 2 receivers. And I would say you might actually want to even double up your tight ends. Like the problem, of course, with the Super Bowl is you've got Kittle and Kelsey going. So
Correct.
it's entirely possible that those guys outscore other tight ends. Um, but definitely fade running backs and fade quarterbacks. I wouldn't have it, and I would consider playing a defense from either the AFC or the NFC in your lineups, and don't have a single quarterback or running back from the Pro Bowl.
All right. Any other wisdom you want to impart here?
Let's
Have
take a look here.
fun. Don't take this
Have fun. Yeah,
seriously.
yeah, absolutely.
You're betting
Oh,
on which raindrop's going to roll down the window faster. So.
yeah, exactly. Like this is it'll be a fun contest if you're in it, I think. And it looks like there might even be some overlay because a lot of people just don't play it. I think so. The rules that I've said, I'll just go over them. I think minimum 1 tight end. I agree with you. Maybe 2 tight ends is probably optimal as well. If you're rostering those 2 tight ends, there's kind of like a built-in floor. I think the chance maybe that they won't be in the top 6 2 tight ends, but they're just more likely to see targets and get snaps. So don't roster running backs. We already touched on. I think taking flyers on fullbacks is an option. I think that if you look at running backs versus fullbacks, the difference between the two is that fullbacks just don't get ownership. So previously, you have like top running backs getting ownership, whereas fullbacks are 2% owned, and we've seen them appear on or close to the winning lineups in 2 of the last 3 years. And that might change. Like I don't know if people are going to roster CJ Ham or whoever that Ravens fullback is. I can't remember, but it might just be a bit of recency bias. People see Sherman's name and they go over owned. So take that with a grain of salt. Don't worry about spending to the cap. Like I think a lot of the common combinations are going to be adding Michael Thomas if you can, and paying up at quarterback for Lamar Jackson. So there's absolutely no reason to spend up to the cap. Like Kirk Cousins is equally as valuable as Deshaun Watson in this game, and there's other wide receivers that are just as valuable as Michael Thomas because you just don't know where the ball is going to go or how these snap counts are going to play out. So you might as well just differentiate that way. I would assume that people will just try and stuff in Michael Thomas when they can, and it might work out, but who knows? Roster kickers, roster defenses. I have at least one defense in every lineup. That's a little bit scary, but it's just played out that way, and there's that increased chance of a sack when you have
Right.
refs just possibly blowing the whistle after anyone gets close. And then the final thing I would say, what did I have here? Just don't use. I'm not using quarterbacks in the captain spot. That's it. Like I don't think they have the upside to be on the winning lineup. Of course, again, qualifier, you could have that 2 touchdown performance. Who knows? But generally speaking, you're looking at between 100 to 150 yards and 1 touchdown as a maximum. So 1 to 2 quarterbacks per team, I think, as well, is probably a good way to go about it.
And that makes sense. So to finish up a couple things. One, hey, shout out again to Yahoo for being a little bit inventive and doing the 2-game slate here. I'm going to drop the link to the Cash Building Blocks article for NBA. There will be an NBA show at 5 o'clock tonight with Fast City Fair. It's probably going to be crazy because we have 5 games tipping off at 6 o'clock, and then the Portland, Indiana game is later. But there should be a lot of moving parts, so that'll be a wild one this evening. In that Cash Building Blocks article, there's a little section for Yahoo discount dandies. You also find a link and promo code to get up to a $30 deposit match on your first deposit there at Yahoo. And if you want to get in on Awesemo Premium, if you use the promo code LIV, that stands for 54 in Roman numerals. That is for Super Bowl 54. You get 1 month of all full access premium content for $54. So just over $1 a day there, $1.50 a day, and it's the best deal that we've got going right now. So check
For
that
sure.
one out. As for
And we got some
playing
exciting
as
Super
for
Bowl
playing
con.
defenses, Nolan, the one thing I do want to point out for chat, the most you can lose on DraftKings is 4 points for points allowed. That's
Yeah.
it. So they're going to be on the field half the game. And that's
Yeah.
something we can't say about the rest of the players.
That's a really great point, right? Like they're going to have opportunities for 50% of the games, and a lot of players aren't. So definitely, maybe that's why there's an uptick. I mean, you always worry about these Pro Bowls. It could have like a 56-50 shootout, right? But for recently, we really haven't seen that happen. So hopefully, my fingers are crossed, and hopefully, we're going to get some defenses. I'm going heavily overweight today, and crossing my fingers, man. So. Should also mention next week we have probably a really it's in the books on Friday. We're gonna have a really big Super Bowl preview. We're gonna do a betting preview. We're gonna have a bunch of different guests on. Lofty's gonna be hosting and just kind of go into depth for DFS and for Super Bowl betting, prop bets, fun bets. So make sure to check that out next Friday, and we'll get you covered for the Super Bowl.
Excellent. All right, gamers. With that, good luck.